Okay, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are going to talk a little bit about Totara certifications, kind of learn a little bit about them. It's going to be kind of that up in the sky, high-level overview of what they are, just to kind of give you a good foundation as far as what they are and kind of how they work. I'll also pass along some documentation. I will attach that to the YouTube comments, so when I get this posted up there, you should be able to access that documentation that way. So again, thanks so much for joining me today. A little bit about myself. My name is Taylor Craig. I am a platforms consultant here at Kineo. So what I get to do is I get to travel all over and work with all of our great clients, as well as work with them online just about every single day. So I really enjoy working with you guys and helping implement your Totara solutions and seeing you guys be successful. A little bit about office hours for those of you who haven't joined us or don't know or are just watching the recording. What we do in office hours is we have about a 15-minute feature presentation where we cover anything Totara. By the way, guys, if you have any suggestions, please feel free to submit those to me. You can shoot me an email. It's taylor.craig@kineo.com, or we also have a survey that I can send out if that's something that interests you. So feel free to let us know. If we haven't covered something that you want to see, if you don't see it in one of the recordings, if you have questions, just let us know and we'll feature that in one of our sessions. Afterwards, we have about 45 minutes of open floor questions. That part is only open to clients. We don't post that out there to YouTube. And we want you guys to come and ask all your questions. It's basically free training time, so please, please, please come join us. We want you to come and ask us questions. So a little bit about Totara certifications. What we're going to talk about today is what exactly are they, how do I turn them on, and then how do I actually add one and use it. So those are going to be the three talking points that we will address today. First things first, though, let's talk about a little bit about what they are. So certifications are actually built on the structure that programs are built on. So if you're familiar with Totara, you're probably familiar with programs. Basically, what a program is, in case you're not familiar with Totara, is a program allows you to group courses together. And it allows you to group courses together in a way that we call course sets, which also allows you to basically have prerequisites. So you can say that people have to complete course 1 and 2 before they can move on to course 3. Certifications allow you to do that same exact thing. So you can still have that program functionality, which is really cool and snazzy. But on top of that, you also get what we call a recertification path. So that's what's going to distinguish this and make it incredibly different from a program, is that you have what we call a recertification path. Now that recertification path can go one of two ways. You can allow them to recertify in the same exact content, so run them back through the same exact course. So for example, maybe you have health and safety standards and things that maybe don't change just a whole lot every single year, and you want to run them back through the exact same content. Absolutely possible. Now, what will happen when you're doing it that way is it's going to reset key activity level completion criteria. When I say key activity level completion criteria, what I'm referring to is face-to-face, forums, quizzes, and scoring. So, for example, if you had a forum that required the learner to post at least one time, they are going to see their old posting that they've done, but the requirement is back. They have to post again, right? So that's kind of how that's going to work. Same with face-to-face. It's going to reset, and it's going to reset quizzes. So they would have to retake those quizzes. They'd have to retake scorums as well. So just something to kind of keep in mind with that. And it's going to automatically do that reset for you. Now, you have another way to work these recertification paths as well. So say you know that recertification path is going to have something that it's basically the same content, but you know it's going to be different, and you're already working on that and you have that ready. So what you can do is you can do the original certification path and then put the new course into the recertification path. So then that's going to put them into a whole new course when they recertify. Okay, so lots of things that you can do there. You can even do a completely different course. So if you want to certify them in one area and then next year recertify them, in 2 or 3 other areas that are related, you can absolutely do that as well. So just something to keep in mind when you are utilizing certifications. We don't have a whole lot of clients using certifications at this point, to be completely honest. A lot of people prefer the use case of programs, and then also certifications can be a little complicated. Definitely, I want you to take a look at that documentation that I send your way afterwards. It's going to be, again, in the comments of the YouTube channel. So we'll place that in there so that you can access it. But certifications can be a little bit tricky, and you'll see kind of where that happens because dates are pretty important when it comes to certifications. So let's go ahead and dive in here and take a look at an example certification. So I'm going to look at this from a couple of learners' perspectives, and I'm going to zoom in because I can barely read that, so I assume you probably can't. So I'm in here as Walker Reed. He has come into the course, and what he has here is underneath his required learning. I believe you should see that. Yeah. So underneath my learning, required learning, this is one of the two places where he is going to see that certification. So he sees here that he's got a program that he has to complete because, again, remember, your programs are considered to be, quote, required learning because it's assigned learning, and you're telling people you got to take this. Same thing for certifications. So again, they're kind of run in the same vein in that they are considered to be, quote, required learning. So here, the name of that particular one is certification example. He sees that the due date for him is July 1st, and he sees currently that his progress is nothing. Now, we see here that he also has a description of what that certification is. In my case, since it's an example, I give some definition of what a certification is. Yours probably has a definition of what they're going to learn and what they're expected to do, right? So that's one place where he can access it. He can also access it via the record of learning. So you can come in here, come down to record of learning, and click on the certifications tab. When he clicks on that certifications tab, he's going to see it broken down in this way. Now again, guys, we've talked a lot about embedded reports before. This is what we would consider an embedded report. So if you don't like all of these columns, as an administrator, you can kind of go in and edit and rename and do all of that good jazz. If you haven't seen that, go take a look at some of the recordings on reporting, and you'll see where we talk about how you can do that in the columns tab of those embedded reports. So here he is seeing that he needs to take certification example. His due date is July 1st of 2016, so that's coming up. He has a showing which certification path he is in. Currently he is in what we call certification mode. That's where he's headed that way. And his current status is he is not certified. His renewal status is not due for renewal yet. Okay, so he's not due yet. He doesn't know when the window opens just yet. He doesn't know when that expiration date is, completion date, previous completions, because some of this stuff hasn't happened yet. But we'll see here when we go in here, certification example, he gets a little more detail. He has the ability to request an extension. One thing to note, guys, I believe in 2.9, and I may need to double check this, I believe in 2.9 you now have the ability to turn off that request an extension. In earlier versions you don't have the ability to do that. In 2.9 you do have the ability to turn that off. So here he is saying this is his original certification path. We've named this course set Certification Path 1. You can name it whatever you want to. And he says it's allowing him he needs to allow himself at least one day to complete this course set. So again, it's going to work exactly like a program in that he gets a launch course button. And it's then going to let him know that he's been enrolled. So the enrollment function around certifications works exactly like it does with programs. They're not enrolled in the course until they have launched it. So that's exactly how programs work, and that's also, you should expect that with certifications as well. In my example, it's really hunky-dory. It's really easy here. We just click the box and we get our certification. I get to say, I attended it, right? And I can even come in here and I can choose to grab my certificate if I want to. However, I think I have it set where that's not part of the course completion. But again, mine's just an example. So here's his example certificate. Now what he can do is he can come back in here, he can go look at that record of learning again, and we see some changes. We see that health and safety standards is starting to show up here. He is showing the date that he completed it, so that's just showing up underneath his courses, and that's to be expected. And then we also have certifications here. So now we're seeing some of these columns get filled in. So now he sees that he is in the path of recertification. So now he's ready to recertify when it opens back up. Currently he is certified, so that's his current status. He's currently not due for renewal, but the window for renewal opens on June 1st of 2017. So that's when he's going to be ready to go again. And then his new expiration date will be July 1st of 2017. So this is kind of how this is working, and what you can see here, he can see that he has his progress. When the time comes, he will see that he can come in here, click on certification example, and then he will see the recertification path. Okay. Let's take a look also at Helen Walker here. She is also completed, and she's kind of in the same boat here. But her dates are a little bit different. So that's kind of the point that I wanted to make here, is that we see that her dates are different. Her dates fall in January and February. So quick question around that. Why in the world is that? So let's go ahead and take a look from the administrator's point of view exactly what's going on in this area. Now, before we do that, I want to quickly show you here. This is what we would call our certification completion report. Guys, I apologize, my theme changed. You may have caught that. You may have noticed that it went from the black theme to a white theme. That is because currently I have user themes turned on for my own testing purposes, and my administrator account just has a standard theme on. So that's why it's looking a little bit different. But it is, in fact, the same instance. If you don't believe me, take a look up here at the URL. Okay, so this is going to be our most recent record. I'm actually going to refresh because we should have a new record popping up here. There he is, Walker Reed. He is now moved up. He is certified. Certification is visible to him, and here's his completion date. So we're seeing all of our different completion dates. This is just the certification completion report. I've also taken that same report. I'm going to refresh it real quick to see if our data changes a little bit. And it did. So we now have 5 who are certified in that example, 0 in progress, 1 not started, 7 total in there. So we are seeing this in a graphical representation. And then we also have, let's see here, there's another certification report that is just kind of what are the certifications I have on my site. That's a different report. I grabbed the wrong one. I believe it's this one here. Yeah, so this one is just a nice administrative report, and it's just called certifications. Basically what it's going to do is it's going to show you every single certification that you have on your site. Kind of helps you as an admin not have to sort through things and get to them in a funny place. So now let's talk about how in the world do we add them, and how did Helen and Walker have two different start dates, completion dates, and all that good stuff. So let's go in and take a look at this. So to use certifications, a couple of things that you're going to want to do. You're going to want to come in here and go under Courses and make sure that you see Manage Certifications right here. If you don't, I'm actually going to search, make sure that we're using all of our settings here. There it is. It's going to be located underneath Advanced Features, guys. So if you're not seeing certifications, you need to turn them on. I believe certifications have been available definitely since 2.7, but the earlier versions as well. If you're not seeing it, go ahead. You can either search for certifications like I just did, or you can go to Site Administration, Advanced Features, and you're going to see the option to enable certification. So if you're not seeing it on your site, you need to go do this, switch this to Show and Save. Then what you'll do is go into Courses, and I'm going to go to Manage Certification. So it's going to be located right underneath Programs. This interface looks very, very similar. This is the same thing that we see when we see Programs, except it's focusing around certifications. You'll notice up here in the URL that we are looking at certifications because view type equals certification. If we were looking at the same screen and looking at Programs, that view type should equal Programs. So that's going to be your major difference there. Okay, so I have all of my certifications underneath one category, so that's where all of mine are housed, but you can put them in any of your categories. Again, works the same way as Programs. So I can click on Add a New Certification. That's going to just pop in a new one. We would populate that particular one. So let's take a look at this real quick. Add a new certification. It's going to ask me where I want to place it. I'm going to leave it here. Okay, fill in the blanks. Your summary does show up. That does appear. The learners do see it. Let me show you real quick where they see it. We'll click on this certification example. So this is that summary. This is what they're seeing here. Okay, so they do in fact see it if you put something in there. Summary files, this is a good way to put in a logo or an image or something like that. So if you're offering several different maybe certification paths and you've got a certain, like an OSHA compliance or whatever, and you want to put a logo in there, that would be a good place to do it. Or you could do it up here in the summary. The learners would see that. You can place an endnote. The learners would see that as well. I've placed an endnote in here. Mine is called The End. Yours may be much more detailed and elaborate. You can do audience-based visibility around certifications as well. So I'm going to go ahead and save those changes. And again, we've kind of got a lot of very similar tabs that we might see inside of a program. But the main one I want to take a look at is going to be the Content tab. So you have the ability to add a set of courses. You'll notice that it even uses the terms program here. So very, very similar as far as how that works. You can add that information in as well. And then we also have a certification tab. Okay, so that's going to deal with how you handle that recertification. So I'm going to actually take a look, so that because we're kind of running tight on time, I'm going to take a look at a certification that's already set up and already existing, because I definitely want to show you those dates. So I'm going to go underneath Manage Certifications again. I'm going to go in here to Kineo, and I want to go to that certification example. Okay, so you'll see here once it's set up, I've got Certification Path 1, Course Set 2, Recertification Path. You'll notice that it's a totally different course. None of my people were seeing it yet because it wasn't time for them to start seeing it at that time. I'm going to edit those certification details. We can take a look at our content. You'll see that we can add content. I don't know that I would necessarily recommend doing that because you probably have other people who have already completed those certifications, and it won't make them come back and do that because they've already completed it as it was when they completed it. So it's not going to be retroactive if that's what you're wondering. So if we come in here, this is where you're going to choose how it's expired. This recertification date, that is going to impact it quite a lot. So you do want to take a look at the documentation surrounding that because it is going to kind of change some things. Now if we look at our assignment tab, you'll see here that I have individuals that I've enrolled, but you also can do this via organization, position, audiences, as well as management hierarchy. So you could say, I want everybody who reports to Jane, I want them to have to take this particular certification. So we noticed that Helen and Walker had very different due dates. The reason they had very different due dates is because Helen's due date was February 17th of 2017. That's what she was showing, and that was something that we set specifically for her. And then Walker Reed, he had to complete by July 1st. So you can set this completion within a lot of different ranges of criteria. You'll see Gary has to complete it within the first 3 months of his first login. But let's take a look at our other options. So we can come in here, we can say complete by and set an actual fixed date for those individuals. Or you can do within 1 day, week, month, or year. You can do it of their first login, the date they were assigned a particular position. So for example, if you're in a fast food organization, you may have somebody who's doing frontline leader training, and then they get promoted to a staff manager. So as a result, they get enrolled into the certification. So you may want them to complete it within 30 days of becoming a staff manager. So that's something that is to be aware of and pay attention to. So you've got all of these options as well. So then you can set time relative to the event. So certifications are pretty cool. Again, we don't have a whole lot of people using them. We do have one client in particular that is starting to use them and starting to use them quite effectively and doing a great job doing that. So I will quit talking your ear off. I've been talking for about 20 minutes. I will turn the floor over to you. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it very much, and let me know if you have any questions.